Yun Se-yoon remains entirely devoted to his academics, caring little about anything or anyone beyond his studies. When the class bully John Young-bin attempts to provoke him, Se-yoon refuses to be intimidated. As his efforts fail to get a reaction, Young-bin takes increasingly extreme measures to shatter Se-yoon's calm and indifferent attitude, but his scheme ultimately backfires. After defeating Young-bin in a fight, Se-yoon gains a daunting reputation among his classmates. However, this still fails to stop a furious Young-bin from preparing his next move. Meanwhile, a regretful Oh Beum-suk finds the strength to face his mistakes and step forward to support Se-yoon. When Gil-soo discovers his gang members have been beaten, he becomes enraged and demands to confront those responsible. Young-bin then tricks Se-yoon, Beum-suk, and Soo-ho, leading them straight to Gil-soo. Gil-soo snaps John Suk-dae's arm and, using it as false leverage, threatens the trio to deliver 15 million won within 3 days as compensation for the injury or face death along with their families. Seeking guidance, Se-yoon turns to the runaway Yang-ai for advice and forms a strategy against Gil-soo using the information he obtains. Their plan to take down Gil-soo collapses, and Se-yoon discovers Soo-ho's blood on the floor inside the gang's hideout. He contacts Yang-ai for assistance, and she heads toward Gil-soo with Suk-dae while Se-yoon tracks their movements using a GPS app. At the same time, Soo-ho and Beum-suk are being held captive by Gil-soo's gang. While spending time with his friends in a karaoke room, Beum-suk encounters the bullies from his former school. Soo-ho forces them to apologize to him, but Beum-suk interprets it as sympathy and grows upset, believing Soo-ho is bossing him around and looking down on him. As Beum-suk becomes increasingly distant and emotionally unstable, Se-yoon begins to worry about his well-being. Beum-suk grows close to Jong-chan and Tae-hoon, begins drinking with them at bars, and gradually turns into a bully himself. Se-yoon believes Jong-chan and Tae-hoon are taking advantage of his wealth and that Beum-suk is acting out due to loneliness and insecurity. He wants to support Beum-suk, but Soo-ho feels he has already done more than enough. The conflict between Beum-suk and Soo-ho intensifies, eventually leading Beum-suk to hire UFC fighter Woo Young to attack Soo-ho on his birthday. Se-yoon and Yang-ai prepare for Soo-ho's birthday celebration when Yang-ai receives a message from Beum-suk claiming he wants her help to apologize to Soo-ho. However, it is a scheme by Beum-suk to lure Soo-ho in, and he sends a photo of the kidnapped Yang-ai as bait. Se-yoon sees the message first and rushes to save her, suffering serious injuries but keeping it from Soo-ho to protect both him and Beum-suk. When Soo-ho later learns the truth, he confronts Beum-suk and his friends, prompting Beum-suk to once again hire Woo Young to attack him. Soo-ho initially gains the advantage, but Tae-hoon trips him, allowing Woo Young to knock him down. The bullies, including Beum-suk and Woo Young, then gang up on Soo-ho, leaving him in a coma. Se-yoon and Yang-ai grow worried when they are unable to reach Soo-ho for an extended time. During his final exams, Se-yoon receives the devastating news about what happened to Soo-ho and sets out to take revenge on Young-bin, Woo Young, Beum-suk, and their friends. Meanwhile, Beum-suk's father attempts to conceal the incident by sending him overseas. With Soo-ho still in a coma, the story concludes as Se-yoon transfers to a new school and is confronted by another student. Se-yoon has been unable to sleep properly. He occasionally visits Soo-ho and ends up dozing off at school. Juntae takes his phone to gain Hyomin's approval, but Se-yoon calls him a coward for it. Later, he visits Soo-ho again and opens up about everything that has been happening. Juntae eventually returns all the phones he and his group had stolen, including Se-yoon's, but Hyomin starts beating him after discovering the truth. Se-yoon steps in to stop the fight, warning Hyomin not to cross the line. Hyomin starts repeatedly punching and kicking Se-yoon, but Se-yoon keeps getting back up each time. Gotak finds out about the situation and intervenes, intimidating Hyomin and stopping the fight. He later hears the rumors about why Se-yoon transferred to Yunjang High but appears unconvinced by them. Meanwhile, Hyomin plans to provoke a fight between Se-yoon and Gotak. He tells Se-yoon that Gotak wants to fight him, wrecks the basketball team's clubhouse, and locks Juntae inside a locker. Se-yoon rescues Juntae from the locker, after which Hyomin tells Gotak that Se-yoon wants to meet him in the clubhouse. As Se-yoon leaves, Gotak arrives and discovers the clubhouse destroyed. The two end up fighting, and afterward Hyomin's gang ambushes Gotak while Hyomin attacks Se-yoon with a bat, until someone finally steps in and stops the fight. Baku comes to the rescue of Gotak, Se-yoon, and Juntae, defeating Hyomin and his gang, and Gotak apologizes to Se-yoon. The following day, Se-yoon, Gotak, Juntae, and Baku are all assigned community service, despite not being the ones who started the fight. Si-eun is attacked in the bathroom by Song Jae-i, leading to a confrontation between Song Jae-i and Baku. Learning about the fight, Baku immediately rushes to check on Si-eun. Na Baek-jin, much like Si-eun, uses quick thinking to win a fight against Hyomin and his gang. Later, Si-eun visits Soo-ho, where Song Jae-i confronts him at the hospital, playfully threatening him. Song Jae-i takes Si-eun to the Union's hideout, where he meets with Baek-jin. Si-eun warns Baek-jin not to come to or send anyone near Soo-ho's hospital. He then helps Baek-jin figure out a math problem he had been struggling with. As Si-eun leaves, Song Jae-i threatens him once more. Meanwhile, Baek-jin sends some goons with fake IDs to Baku's father's restaurant, angering him. One goon delivers a message to Baku just before Baek-jin calls him. Si-eun tells Ga-tak, Juntae, and Baku that he met Baek-jin and instructs them to leave him alone. He is then intercepted by Union kids, despite Baek-jin having ordered them to leave him. Those same Union kids spot Ga-tak and Juntae walking alone and alert Song Jae-i. Song Jae-i confronts them, and Ga-tak tells Juntae to run. The Union kids catch Juntae while he's on the phone with Si-eun, prompting Si-eun to rush back. Song Jae-i and the Union kids take Juntae and Ga-tak to a rooftop, while Baku meets with Baek-jin. Baek-jin explains the plan, and Baku heads back to Ga-tak and Juntae after fighting off several Union kids. Song Jae-i beats Ga-tak until Si-eun arrives. After a fierce fight, Si-eun defeats Song Jae-i but knocks himself out in the process. Baku finally arrives as Si-eun begins communicating with Soo-ho in his mind. Baku feels responsible for Ga-tak, Juntae, and Si-eun getting hurt, believing it's his fault. Si-eun urges Baku not to continue the cycle of violence and to break it instead. While the gang hangs out at the playground, Baku is once again summoned to the police station after Baek-jin's gang frames his father for taking in underage students. Eventually, Baku is cornered into accepting the Union's offer, and he reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, following a fight with his upset mother, Si-eun decides to study abroad for the rest of high school. At the airport, while waiting for his flight, Juntae calls to reassure Si-eun that what happened to their friend wasn't his fault. With that, Si-eun chooses to stay in Korea with his friends. Si-eun, Juntae, and Ga-tak search for Baku, who has agreed to work with Baek-jin to maintain peace, though he struggles with accepting the decision. Hyomin exposes that Daesung Bikes has been stealing bicycles, selling them unregistered, and then re-stealing them using spare keys. While Si-eun confronts Baek-jin, demanding he leave Baku alone, Ga-tak and Juntae break into Daesung Bikes, locate a list of illegal vehicles, and take it. Later, Baek-jin shows the footage to Si-eun and warns that his men are on their way to attack. Si-eun rushes to intervene, but midway receives a call from Soo-ho's hospital that Soo-ho is in critical condition. Shocked, he freezes in the street just as a vehicle approaches, and he is struck. Baku quits working for Baek-jin and rushes to rescue Ga-tak and Juntae, fighting off their attackers and nearly losing control until Juntae receives a call about Si-eun's accident. They race to the hospital and are crushed to find Si-eun unconscious. After he is moved to a room, his worried mother turns them away. Juntae attempts to take the list of illegal bikes to the police, but it's rejected due to insufficient evidence, and he is later captured and beaten by Baek-jin's gang, refusing to betray his friends even then. Song Jae-i intervenes, saving him, and calls Baku to pick him up. Seeing his son struggle, Baku's father returns the money he had given him and tells him not to worry, causing Baku to break down in tears over Si-eun's condition. The next day, Baku goes to Baek-jin's school with a megaphone, publicly challenging the Union and declaring that if Yunjang High wins, they must disband. While waiting outside Si-eun's room, his mother apologizes and allows Baku in. Meanwhile, Si-eun, still unconscious, dreams of Oh Beum-suk warning him that everything will only bring pain, but he wakes up calling for Soo-ho. He is reassured that Soo-ho is safe. Juntae cries upon learning Si-eun is okay, and Si-eun asks about Baek-jin. Si-eun starts planning the fight carefully, using divide-and-conquer strategies and, with Song Jae-i's help, exposing the Union's hidden finances. On the day of the battle, Song Jae-i calls Si-eun claiming he has more evidence but betrays him, almost taking him out. With Juntae's assistance, Si-eun returns to the battleground, where a violent clash erupts between Yunjang High and the Union. Baku comes close to defeating Baek-jin, but Baek-jin counters and knocks him down. Just as Baek-jin claims victory, Si-eun returns, leading to a brutal showdown. As Si-eun struggles, Baku rises and finally defeats Baek-jin. Baekjin then disappears, and soon after, Suho wakes up, reuniting with Seun. In the post-credit scene, the CEO of the bowling alley approaches Song Jae-e as Baekjin's replacement, while Baku and the gang are shown crying at Baekjin's funeral.